Hey everyone, and welcome. It's the Playbook with yours truly, Joe Trahan, and the one and only, the great Ed Werder. Hey Ed, how you doing?
Doing good, Joe. How are you?
Well, I'm doing a lot better than the Cowboys, and in particular, Matt Eberflus and that Cowboys defense. Ed, you've covered a lot of football in your time. I've covered a lot of football in my time. I've not covered as much football as you have. I'm curious, man, when you think about this kind of in the totality of what you've seen and what you've seen specifically from this Cowboys organization watching the way that those Bears receivers were just running wide open play after play, touchdown after touchdown, first down after first down. I'm curious when you put it in the larger scope of things, how do you process it?
Well, first of all, to provide some kind of context to the whole thing, this is a long-standing problem with this franchise on defense. You know, Matt Eberflus is the fourth different defensive coordinator that they've had since Mike McCarthy came here 6 years ago, and two of the last three defensive coordinators have been one and done. They fired Mike Nolan after McCarthy's first year, and a lot of the reason for that was they were playing just like this. They gave up the most points in franchise history, 473 points. So then they hired Dan Quinn, and he's very successful, creates a defensive identity based on quarterback pressures, takeaways, have great success, win 12 games 3 years in a row. They hired Mike Zimmer last year, and he lasts 1 year because there's a head coaching change, but also because the defense ranked second in the league in giving up the most points to Carolina, which gave up the most points in NFL history, or the Cowboys might have done it again.
Right.
And now they're in that same predicament, yet again with Matt Eberflus. And I mean, people have talked about they need to fire Matt Eberflus. I think it's must be hard for Matt Eberflus, right, to take all this criticism and see all these breakdowns and just he doesn't have the personnel. I mean, if you're Jerry Jones, it's not fair to trade Micah Parsons a week before the season starts and then blame the defensive coordinator when it looks like it has the past 3 weeks. So, I mean, once again, Shoddy said today there are some things that they're going to make some changes in the way they meet. They're going to make some changes in the scheme in terms of trying to simplify it. And they may make some personnel changes this week, too. But he also told us last week that this was something that they could correct quickly. It did not need to be a multi-week problem. And Joe, it's a multi-week problem.
It's a multi-week problem, and Ed, it got worse. I mean, this thing went completely off the rails in this game, and I do think you make a good point. I don't want to put it all on Matt Eberflus because listen, these guys are professionals, and it's not like they're getting beat. They don't understand some of their assignments. They're just in the wrong place. Yeah, I mean Trayvon Diggs, he slipped down on that one play. Yes, he got beat, right?
Right.
Why he was pressing on 3rd and 8 and trying to give a quick jam? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Wouldn't be the way I'd coach it. Wouldn't be the way I'd play it. Um, but by and large, as I said, these receivers were just wide open after wide open, and a lot of times it was because schematically it didn't look like the Cowboys were either ready for what they saw or they didn't understand what they were going to do. And I think about the last touchdown on the 4th down play to DJ Moore, and you think about Malik Hooker was kind of eyeing and mirroring what Caleb Williams was doing when there was a spy built into the defense at the linebacker level that was doing it. And at that point, I was like, man, I know at some point it gets to the point to where everyone just tries to do too much, and maybe they just, hey, just do your job, right? Go back to the old Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick saying, just do your job, right? Because listen, you're not good enough to help anybody else.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. And I think there is room for improvement. I don't know how quick it will come, but I do think you make a great point um, about the roster, and I want to go through this because I did this with Glenn Stretch Smith. I did this with Coach, and if you just start at every level of the defense, they need another player. Defensive line, you think they need another player,
I think they need at least two. I mean, I think when
right?
they made the Micah Parsons trade, I think they totally overestimated what they had in terms of edge rushers available to replace him. And so now they've had to go out and sign Jadeveon Clowney.
Right?
And they're talking about him making significant impact as soon as this week. A 32-year-old guy who's on his 17th. And you're right. If you look at the big plays, I mean, they've given up 13 passing plays of 25 or more yards, 5 of them for touchdowns. That's the most they've given up in 3 games in 45 years. 45 years.
Unbelievable.
And the point totals, they've given up 92 points in 3 games. They've only been worse after 3 games 3 times. And in those 3 years, not only didn't they make the playoffs, they didn't even win more than 6 games any of those years. But yeah, I mean, you look at the breakdowns, and to your point about the roster and how they need players at every level of the defense. They don't get any pressures. They're one of the worst pressure teams in all of football. And Jerry's talking about he's encouraging Eberflus to do something he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to have to blitz because that further exposes the coverage, right? If you don't get home, your coverage is even more exposed. And then you look at the linebackers. Terrible play. I mean, a check down to DeAndre Swift goes for 41 yards yesterday.
I mean, just unbelievable. Just complete bust, on the Cole Kmet touchdown, not getting depth, completely biting, on a simple
and on the pass to Colston Loveland, another tight end for 31 yards. They had 4 plays for 30+ yards, 2 to receivers, 1 to a running back, and 1 to tight end, which is kind of making your point about the lack of personnel at every level of the defense.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, they could certainly use another linebacker. They could probably use another slot defender, perhaps another corner, and perhaps another safety. I mean, it's when you go down each and every position group, they could use help. They're going to get some help back from guys coming back from injury. Today, Brian Schottenheimer said that Deron Bland could be a possibility for this week. Siobhan Ravel, his practice window will open on next Monday. So listen, they could get some help back, but I just think it's a part scheme, part personnel, and it's just they're in the middle of the suck. They're right in the thick of the deep.
This is when they need to be winning games. This is when they need to be doing their winning.
You're right.
Their schedule.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Your most winnable games are the Giants and the Bears, and on the other side of this Packers game, you got Carolina and the Jets. Are we sure they're going to beat Carolina and the Jets? Now they got injuries on the offensive side. We thought that maybe they could win some shootouts, right? Well, now they're not going to have CeeDee Lamb, and they're missing. Another Tyler Booker is possibly going on IR with the high end. So that's 2 starting offensive linemen, and your best receiver, your most dynamic player on offense that you're losing. You traded your most dynamic defensive player. He's going to play against you this week in your building. So yeah, it's a bad set of circumstances coming at a time when you need to be winning games because the back end of your schedule is next to impossible.
Well, listen, we know the soap opera goes 365 days a year, and we're in the middle of all these plot twists of the soap opera and, all these cliffhangers and dramatic endings. And listen, the DNA of an NFL season is chock full of adversity. And that's even for championship teams, right? When you think about a Cowboys team, I mean, they're getting a lot of the adversity pretty early on here, and we don't know if they were. Let me state that clearly. They're not built to withstand this kind of adversity. There were too many questions coming into this season for them to try and withstand this kind of adversity. I mean, it's, the NFL has a funny way of, us thinking, hey, listen, the Cowboys are reeling right now. Micah's coming back and they're going to get blown out and he's going to go crazy. The NFL has a funny way of things just not working out.
You say they're going to win, Joe?
They're not clean cut. But I mean, I want to see it play out because I'm here for the soap opera. I mean, I tune in. I tune in every day. It's my favorite thing to do.
Right. And Brian Schottenheimer said today, this isn't the only adversity we're going to have. And to succeed in this game as coaches and players, you got to be tough SOBs. And just look around the league. I mean, the 49ers have just won 2 games without their starting quarterback, without their all-pro tight end.
And now Bosa's gone.
And now they've lost Nick Bosa, their best pass rusher. So
ACL done for the year.
It's not just Dallas. This happens around the league to virtually every team. Sometimes a team will be really fortunate with. I mean, look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has played without Tristan Wirfs, their all-pro left tackle, without Chris Godwin. They lost Mike Evans yesterday. They still won the game. That's what good teams do.
Baker Mayfield, by the way, is playing his butt off. I mean,
Hey,
he's
I'm
playing
starting to think
really
he's
good
pretty good
football.
at this football thing.
He's, you know, maturity is a fantastic thing, and I think that is absolutely part of Baker's story. I mean, he kind of grew up. He went through some adversity. He's talked about it a lot. He got his family together. He's working on his faith journey, and man, has he ever. He turned his career around, and it's been fun to see. I've been really critical of that guy, especially for some of the antics he pulled at Oklahoma. But I'm also the first one to raise up my hand to say, hey, when you can figure it out and not let it completely get away from you, I'll applaud the turnaround. So good for Baker Mayfield, and I hope all of our OU viewers like that.
And to think the Cleveland Browns had this guy in their
Oh,
building. They invested a
yeah,
first overall pick in this guy and prematurely didn't provide him with the right surroundings, right? He didn't have the right coaching, didn't have the right organization. And so instead of having Baker Mayfield, they're now paying Deshaun Watson this ungodly, historic, guaranteed contract not to play while they're playing Joe Flacco, who's 40 years old.
which
So
br which brings us to the full circle moment of yes, the Browns are an awful franchise at a lot of times, but they figured out a way to beat the Green Bay Packers and Micah Parsons. And after that game, Micah Parsons said that his team soiled the bed. Now he used profanity, of which I can't do,
not
but
even on a streaming channel? I thought it
no,
would be okay.
I'm gonna pass. We just had some indecency training,
ABC's
and
in
so I'm
enough.
not I'm not gonna
ABC's in
go there.
enough
I'm
trouble
not
with
gonna
the
go there.
FCC.
But no, seriously, seriously, Micah Parsons very critical
Yep.
of himself and his team with the way they lost to the Browns, and unfortunately for the Cowboys, I think that's going to make it even more difficult on Sunday Night Football because Micah obviously is going to come in. And we apologize for those technical difficulties here on WFAA Plus, but we're right back and at it. And yeah, let's jump in and get your thoughts on how Micah Parsons is going to come in here, especially coming off that loss.
Well, and he's coming in. He's going to want to get some revenge, right? I mean, he didn't like being traded. He wanted to come. He wanted to be here. He said he went back to the Cowboys after, even after recognizing how much Green Bay was willing to pay him. He tried to work it out with Dallas one more time, and they said either play on your contract and get ready for Philadelphia or go play for Green Bay. So he didn't leave under ideal circumstances by any means. He disenfranchised a lot of people with his behavior during his contract holdout, especially the whole last time he was in the stadium lounging around on the training tables. Bad look for him, bad optics for the franchise. But yeah, I mean, he's coming in and, neither one of the Cowboys offensive tackles is really pass protecting that well right now. And now they're down to two backups on the interior offensive line. And he's elevated seemingly the entire defense, certainly the pass rush. I mean, Rashawn Gary leads the NFL in sacks with 4.5. And a lot of that is because of the mayhem that Micah Parsons has created, because of the favorable matchups he's suddenly getting. So, yeah, the Packers pass rush has been a dominant force in the NFL in the early part of this season. And a lot of that's because they have Micah Parsons.
Yeah, and listen, I just think that this whole thing is set up for him, especially with the way the Cowboys defense has been reeling, right? And the fact that they have just been unable to get any pressure, especially yesterday. I mean, it was, and we're talking about, you know, Caleb Williams, who had been until that game sacked in every game previously, most of the time, multiple times. He likes to hold onto the ball, perhaps more than any other quarterback in the league, right? His athleticism, allows him to do that. But a lot of times he's just trying to figure out defenses. That was the big knock on him last year. He just held onto the ball too long and was too indecisive. And the Cowboys, it just didn't matter because they couldn't put pressure on him. He had forever to survey the field and find those wide open receivers. And knowing that that's the pretext, the subtext to what Micah's going to face. I mean, he's just going to feast on it. I'm looking. Let me rephrase that. I don't know if I'm looking forward to how Micah's going to handle the pregame media. I'm interested. I want to see where he's going to go because I do think he's very calculated and the way he handles the media. He had his own streaming show and he knows how to do it and he knows how to play it. He knows how to play the media and play with it. So I'm curious to see what his mindset will be coming in. What will be his default setting as he gets ready to play, his former team and just how personal will he make it? I can't wait to find out. We did find out that Jerry Jones says there will be no tribute video. So he said it would be inappropriate. And
I don't think he's altogether wrong in that. I mean, Micah Parsons has been here for 4 years. Yeah, he was, one of the leading sackers and an important part of a defense, but they never accomplished anything of consequence. I mean, it's not like he's part of a Super Bowl championship team or a team that, ended the 30-year streak of not getting to a championship game. So I quite honestly don't think Jerry's wrong about this. I think he's wrong about trading him. I do think he was wrong about that.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
don't necessarily think, oh, now we need to pay homage to this guy in the way that we have, guys who have gone into the Ring of Honor and who have won championships with this franchise. Now, they did it for Ezekiel Elliott, I guess. He, I think, had been with the franchise a little longer. He won a couple
yeah.
rushing championships, though.
Yes,
Uh,
and he was. I actually had that same conversation with Andrew Seeley, our sports producer, and kind of comparing those two. And I do think that Zeke was here longer. There was some playoff success, unlike Micah has had, because there hadn't been any. So I think there were other reasons. And listen, um, for whatever Zeke's faults and failings were off the field, when it came to in between the lines, game time, I would term him, Ed, a warrior,
oh yeah,
a great teammate, everything that you wanted out of a tough, hard-minded football player on game day. Zeke Elliott gave this team week after week after week, and he was the driving force in that play action based offense that really allowed Dak to grow and mature and end up being the highest paid player in the NFL.
and very popular with his teammates for his professionalism until the very end when he got suspended for a game.
Yeah.
But that I think that was part of the difficult transition he was, having to go through being a backup back with the franchise with a player he didn't really respect, Enrico Dowdle. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I think generally he was regarded as a great teammate who did whatever was necessary to win. Look what he did without the ball. He was one of the best
Yep.
blitz pickup guys, in football. He was extremely close to Dak in a way that Micah isn't. And I think that's going to be an interesting interaction pregame potentially. And I know Dak would hope that there's not too many interactions with him getting Micah off of him at the end of a play. But like to your point, if they get behind in this game, that could certainly become something we see quite often. But yeah, I mean, I think that Zeke, they invested the fourth pick. They had playoff success. He was a two-time rushing champion in the NFL. He got everybody ready to play every week in the locker room in a way that people didn't see. And I think there's just this sense with Micah that he was more in it for himself than and for his own, statistical acclaim and glory and whatever, and wasn't viewed that way internally in the locker room.
No, I totally agree. Listen, and I just go straight to the fact that, when it came to the off-season program, and I'll never forget at the Super Bowl, not this past Super Bowl, but the year before, when Micah and CeeDee Lamb both were talking about they individually needed to step up as leaders for this team. They both said it. They both made it clear. They both said they talked about the plans that they had with each other to do it. And I feel like CeeDee Lamb has done that, and Micah never kind of paid off any of those words. And some of those words were really hollow to me because I listened to it was about a 25 minute podcast that they did together from the Super Bowl. And I was like, wow, okay. it sounds like both these young men are trying to mature and become the kind of pros that you want to have be the face of your franchise. And CeeDee Lamb has continued to do so. And when Micah didn't show up for the entire offseason program this offseason. And as you know, Ed, that's when, Jerry really started to hammer home, hey, we need an up in the ante in
Right.
leadership. And that's part of it. And he kind of fueled that, and it just went sideways. And I do think that Micah never really followed through on what he said he wanted to do. And that, for me, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it played out. And it just sounded like he was um uh trying to placate the fan base with his words, and he didn't live up to it.
Well, I would say it was noteworthy, like you mentioned, when Jerry said, if I'm going to make this kind of an investment, it's for more than just a player. It's for somebody who provides leadership, who elevates the performance of team players around him. So Jerry clearly questioned that. I would give Micah credit for coming back from his injury last year, that high ankle sprain, coming
Yeah,
back as soon as he did, when the season was really pretty much lost. Not everybody did that.
sure,
He did, and he played at a high
sure,
level, and he made a big difference on the defense.
sure.
And I remember, whether he meant it or not, he seemed sincere when he stood in the locker room and said, I want to get my deal done early so we can have money to keep some of these guys around me, because I don't want to spend my career double and triple team. I want us to win. I want to build the team around. So I don't know if I don't know if he followed through with that, like you're saying. We don't know. But he indicated that he got it and he understood and was trying to be better in that regard. But obviously, ultimately, Jerry was unconvinced that he was worth the money he wanted.
No doubt. All right, so let's switch gears here a little bit, Ed, because before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the state of the Cowboys offense with CeeDee Lamb being on the shelf, as we kind of alluded to earlier. He's going to miss multiple games. He could go on IR pretty soon here, which would mean at least four. Tyler Booker, that's the latest news. He has a high ankle sprain as well. We found that out in the last couple of hours. He could very well be headed to the injured reserve as well. That would mean 4 games for him as well. So with those two pieces out, Cooper Beebe, the starting center, he's out as well. How well do you think, and we got to start with George Pickens, how well do you think Pickens can step up and be the kind of target, the kind of leader, the kind of playmaker that Dak needs to make this thing go?
I've been relatively unimpressed with what I've seen to this point through 3 games. He's got a touchdown in 2 of the last 3 games. His numbers have not been dominant. I don't think he runs routes hard all the time. In fact, I talked to a Chicago coach who told me really that none of the Cowboys receivers run their route hard if they're not getting the ball,
Huh.
which makes them easier to defend.
Yes, it
Um,
does. Yes.
so, and we've heard that criticism before from Troy Aikman. Right now, Pickens wasn't a part of that group, but
Right.
he made the same point about Cowboys receivers not running routes hard at all times, which he would consider totally unacceptable and take issue with. But I think Pickens has the ability, and this is his opportunity, right? If you're in the last year of your contract,
Yeah.
you want to prove your value, you want to prove that you're as good as CeeDee Lamb. Here's your stage. Go do it. Lead this group of receivers, because they need to score a lot of points in these games. I mean, as much as they want to run the ball with Javonte Williams, and as impressive as he's been, they need to do that to shorten the game. But can they do it? Because their defense gets scored on so often, they really get taken out of any kind of balanced approach. So, yeah, this is a big opportunity for Pickens. And, the coach has done nothing but love on him with his rhetoric. Every week talks about how much he loves GP and this and that. And Dak does the same thing. So, okay, pay it back now. Perform.
It's going to take the kind of sustained focus that we've never seen from George Pickens, right? Because whether it be lapses in running the routes hard or doing something really silly while trying to block, there have always been these lapses in concentration and focus. And listen, we saw one yesterday with the big drop that turned into the interception. You can't have those lapses if you're going to be the guy, right? And that's, again, it's part of growing up in this league, but it feels like he needs to do that perhaps more than some other young receivers, because when he does have those lapses, he just does those goofy things that we all know about through the years. And that's the last thing that can happen now, because not just Dak Prescott, the entire offense, and not just the offense, the entire team is counting on George Pickens to be the kind of target that can
Yeah,
at least keep the Cowboys in games so they don't get run out like they did against the Bears.
he's one of the best athletes they have left now at a skill position, certainly. And now he's probably going to attract more double coverage than he would have otherwise. Certainly, he's going to get more attention than he would with CeeDee Lamb out there. So opportunities are going to be more difficult for him. Now he's physically capable of making contested catches. He can make the one-handed catch we saw yesterday. Then he gets two hands on the ball, like you said, and it deflects off for a pick. And then he's slamming his helmet on the sideline, and he doesn't talk to the media after the game. Those are poor indications of the kind of leadership this team needs right now. I know, Schottenheimer downplayed the significance of him slamming the helmet and said it really went to demonstrating what a competitor he is. But hey, Dak's a great competitor. When he throws a pick like that, it's not even his fault. We don't see that kind of reaction from him. It's just, not professional. But Pickens needs to demonstrate what he's capable of when he's at his very best right now.
Yeah, he's got a chance, like you said, Ed. He's got a chance for a very big payday. This is your shot. Go do your thing. I think this is one of these instances where the leadership of CeeDee Lamb is really going to come into play because, listen, he and George Pickens have a great relationship. We saw it, we knew that they worked out together before Pickens became a part of this team. We saw that relationship in full bloom at training camp. Those guys were as close as could be, working together, working on goofy dances together. But listen, really bonded, and you could tell they were bonded and they were invested in each other doing well. So this is an opportunity for CeeDee Lamb to stay in his ear and say, hey, listen, man, this is your chance to get paid. We got to keep you on the straight and narrow, right? You can't let things bother you that much. You got to keep going. Got to try and keep an even keel because this team is counting on you. And listen, it's a big test, and I don't know if he's equipped. I don't. We'll find out. It won't take us long to find out. And while I say I don't know he's equipped, I will, and I want to make sure that I do this publicly. I want to say that I missed it when it came to Javonte Williams, the Cowboys running back, Ed, because I thought he was just a guy. Because in training camp, you couldn't really see what he has
Yeah,
shown that he is fantastic at, right?
yeah.
When they were just thudding up, I mean, I never saw the punishing power that he delivers with his runs. He knows how to finish a run and he knows how to break a tackle. He knows how to get yards after contact. And it's a real shame that the Cowboys haven't been able to lean on that more in these last couple of games because they've been straight up shootouts.
Yeah, they've been able to do it for like a half, and then the game, turns against them. Obviously, he had the bad fumble at the end of his long run yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're all skeptical because they did the same thing last year with Ezekiel Elliott, and we didn't get to see it. And then we saw he was done. He didn't
Yes.
have it anymore. And this kid was coming off a major knee injury. Denver gave up on him because they
Completely.
wanted to rebuild their entire running game. They drafted a guy, they signed a guy, so that all suggests that this guy's not going to be a number one running back. But Schottenheimer was very firm in his belief in this player. And, with Clayton Adams and the new, some of the new running plays he's brought, the blocking schemes, he's been he's every bit a number one runner in the NFL from what we've seen through these first three games. Breaking tackles, catching the ball, he does it all.
And I think he's a great compliment for the way that that passing game works, right? Because when you've got, a guy who's a lot of finesse and a lot of speed like CeeDee Lamb and a lot of elusive nature of runs, I like the
Yeah.
changeup of Javonte Williams just running over guys. He caught that swing pass. He only got about 3 yards, but he just knocked out two guys, two defensive backs. And listen, that makes it harder for them as the game goes on. So I just think he's a great compliment. And I suspect that had to be what, Brian Schottenheimer was thinking about and why he was so effusive with his praise before we saw it. And now that you can kind of see it come into action, I just want to get on an even playing field so that we can see all of those complementary things work together. Unfortunately, we come back to the defense before we got to get out of here, Ed, and I just don't know if they can get there because it's going to be so hard, as you alluded to before. They're going to end up playing from behind, and they're going to end up having to make these big plays. And again, I think they have to, and as we have to wrap up here in about 30 seconds, I think that they have to try and hope that Jordan Love is not on his game, and that he just doesn't go bombs away like we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Yep. And we saw without CeeDee Lamb yesterday, Pickens didn't really take over the game, and Dak really had to rely on the tight end and the running backs of the passing game. They're going to need some explosive plays.
No doubt. Explosive plays, try to at least be even in the turnover battle. Cowboys are one of the worst teams in the league at it. In fact, they're the worst. So let's see if they can get that turned around. Again, another quick half hour, Ed Werder. You're the best, brother. Thanks so much for the time.
Enjoy doing the show with you, Joe. Thanks. I'll see you
All
Thursday
right.
night at the Star.
We'll see you. That's the playbook, everyone. See you next Monday night at 7.